Okay, welcome back. Today I'm going to go over finding an image, importing an image, uh, sizing the image correctly, and then we're going to get into tracing lines, circles, trimming, extending, offsetting, splining, mirroring, arraying, etc., etc. But not all at once, McDonald. Slow down. Okay, here we go. First thing I'm going to do is open up my recent document. Now, it should pop up for you as the top one here. It should have your last name. It should kind of look like a square or a little rectangle there. In the off chance that you don't see it there, feel free to go up here, click open, and it should be in your under your documents, under drafting, and it should be called your last name. You should be able to open that, double click it or go down to open, and we are where we left off. Zoom in, zoom out, pan using that roller ball. And I should have up here a couple of layers. Now we drew the border and border layer. Everything we draw today for the most part is going to be on the object layer. So the border, the only thing I want that sort of magenta thick border line is the outside of the square. Everything we draw or trace on our image, I want to be on your object layer. And I don't care what color you make it as long as it's not the same color as border, and it can't be white because that makes me think you're on layer 0, which is a big no-no. Okay, so now that I have that ready, I'm going to jump into the intranet and we're going to find an image. Now, please use Google Chrome. Okay, I swear that noise was my fridge. All right, don't use, as I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by my fridge, we're going to use Google Chrome. Okay, not Internet Explorer or anything like that. Google Chrome is pretty handy, and that's what we're going to use. So I'll go ahead and open Google Chrome. Let's maximize that for maximum efficiency. All right, now we're going to look up our image. There's a few things that make your image a lot easier to trace in AutoCAD, and I'm going to go over that right now. But it's just really important that I state it's my fridge. I swear, I'm sitting in my kitchen. It's right next to me. It's my fridge. Your sticker needs to be school appropriate. All right, so nothing. If it's something you're not allowed to bring to school, you're not allowed to make it at school. That I shouldn't need to see that, but I say that anyways, just so we're all on the same page. So I don't want any drug paraphernalia. I don't want any swear words. I don't want any weapons or anything like that. So just if it's a a video game sticker or something like that, just choose one that maybe doesn't have a weapon in it or any bad words or any drug paraphernalia or anything like that. All right, just so we're all on the same page. Here we go. I am a big fan of Jurassic Park, big fan of dinosaurs, so I'm going to look up Jurassic Park. All right, there we go. Jurassic Park. And I'm going to click here where it says images. And I'm going to go ahead and click an image. Now, anything that's got full color is very difficult to trace. This has got bland, just sort of like solid colors, so it's doable. But I'm going to grab an image like this, but in black and white, because it's much easier to trace. So in order to do that, I'm going to go over to Tools. Here, click Tools, and I'm gonna leave all these alone. I'm gonna grab Type, and I'm gonna try a couple things. I'm gonna look at the clip art. So I'll click that. Here's some clip art. Anything that's like a silhouette like this, that's a great one. Okay, something like any of those are good. We could grab the outside of something like this, but once again, full color is very difficult to get some of the details. Silhouettes are great. Just be careful of, you notice on this silhouette, here we have a small inside area. That can be difficult. If it's very small, it can be difficult to pick, and I'll talk about that, or difficult to weed. And I'll talk about that later. Okay, but I'm looking for something else. I'm looking for the logo. I'm going to go back to the type. I'm going to grab line drawing, and we're going to see what comes up. This is what I'm looking for. This one looks a little funky. Like it was drawn by guys. Looks like I drew this. I want something a little more professional. So I'm going to grab this one here. Looks pretty good. I'm going to right click on the image, and I want to get, I'm not going to save this small image. If I save a small image, the resolution is going to be very small, meaning it'll be blurry. I'll right click. I want to open image in new tab, and that will give me the largest possible image, and it looks the exact same size. That's okay, we'll go for it. Now that I have it here, I'm going to right click, I'm going to save image as, and this will pop up. I'm going to save it as Jurassic sticker, save, and this is on my desktop, so that's where I'm going to look for it. It's probably best to keep it all in the same spot. So under documents, under drafting, I'll save it here, Jurassic sticker, save it there. I'll minimize this for now. Back into AutoCAD. We're going to go up to insert. Okay, and we want to attach. All right, now we're under documents, drafting, Jurassic sticker. There she be. And I'll click open. Okay, now here we go. Now we're in business. That looks all great. I'm gonna not worry about any of this stuff. I'm just gonna go down and click on OK. It's asking me to specify my insertion point, and already I can tell my sticker is very, very small. Some stickers end up being really big, but mine is very, very small. We're gonna see how this goes. I'm gonna specify my insertion point. I want that to be 0, 0. So I can click on the endpoint here, which is my 0, 0, or once again, looking at, bring up that virtual keyboard. Oh no, you see the inside of the machine. All right, looking at my virtual keyboard, I can type 0, comma, or tab, 0, spacebar, and that should throw, I ruined it. That's okay. Not everyone's perfect. Once again, attach, Jurassic sticker, okay. Okay, specify insertion point, 0, comma, 0, spacebar. Okay, so there's my image. And you notice as I move the cursor, it changes the size of the image. So I'm just going to pan that down. And I want to make it as big as I can inside of my box. So I don't want it going outside of my border. It's got to be inside the border. So I'll show you two options. I'm going to drag it vertically up until I intersect with that endpoint, and it looks like it perfectly fills my square. I could pick that, or if I drag it if I drag it horizontally, we're good. All right. You may notice for your sticker, if you drag it vertically, it is a little bit small or a little bit big, or if you drag it horizontally, it might be a little bit smaller, it might be big, or it might be perfect. One way it'll be perfect, the other way it might not be. Mine is perfect both ways, just because that's how I roll. I'll click this endpoint, I'll click it with the left mouse button, and there is my sticker. Now I've got a little bit of unused space up here. Not to worry, all I will do is click L for line, spacebar. I'm going to click the top here, drag it horizontally to the left, and click that, and then click spacebar to end the command, and I can go ahead and delete this line. Click the line, click delete, zoom in. Let's go back on the home tab here. Okay, and you'll notice I just did a little oopsie. I redrew my border on the object layer. So I'm going to click my border, and I'm going to put that back on the border layer. Okay, and I will hit escape to unselect. Now I want to get rid of the two ends of my border that are sticking up. Now if I just delete that line, it's going to delete the entire line, and I only want to delete the line till that intersection point. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to trim the line shorter. So the icon for trim is here. But we're not going to use icons, right? Because we're all pros here. So I'm going to type T for trim, and we're going to see what happens. T, and M text comes up, but TR is the next one down. So I'm going to type TR. I could click on it, physically click on it. I could use my cursor to go down and click spacebar, or I could just type TR and you'll see it's selected by default. That's the fastest way of doing it, and then hit spacebar. Now, the trim key is a little bit strange because we need to select the select all before we start trimming. So with the trim key, it's very important that you hit spacebar twice. So I'm just going to go through that again. I'll hit escape to get out of the trim command, TR for trim. I'm going to hit spacebar once. I'm going to hit spacebar one more time, and then I'll get trimming. Okay, so notice I can, if I hover, that line kind of disappears. Now, to get out of the trim command, you have to hit escape. All right, and I'm going to try that one more time, but this time I'm just going to hit spacebar once, and I'm going to show you what happens. So I'll go TR, and I'll hit spacebar once. Now you'll see when I hover over that line, it just highlights. It doesn't delete or anything like that. So I got to go down and hit spacebar once more. And now you can see that it'll trim. So I'll click that to trim that line. I'll go over here. I'll left click on this line to trim that line. Then I want to escape out of the trim command. So I'll hit the exit button to end the trim command. Hit escape to get out. All right, so I'll zoom out. I'll pan that to the center, zoom in just a touch so we can see where we're at. My image is on the object layer, which is why it looks like my border is blue. But my border is actually purple. Okay, so we're going to start, we're going to get in here. I'm going to start tracing. Okay, so easiest thing to do is start with your straight lines. So I'll go down, make sure I'm on the object layer. Good. I'll type L for line, spacebar. I'm going to zoom in, and I'm going to grab this top line right here. Okay, zoom out. I'm going to pan across. And I'm going to zoom in on this side here, and I'll click that right there. I'm going to zoom out, scroll down. You notice I went all the way across. I'm going to trim that middle line out, but I wanted this line here to be the same height as this one, so I went right the way across. I'll go down. I'm going to zoom in on, make sure that's vertical, zoom in on that corner. Looks like that isn't even straight in the picture. I want to come across. Now where I click here, I want that to be directly in line with the beginning of my line here. So I'm going to show you a little trick to do that. You'll notice when I hover over the, if I hover over the end of my line, and I move that away, if you look to the end of the line, there's now a little cross, or a little no, it's not a triangle. I know my shapes. It's a little T or little crosshairs at the top where that used to be. Now if I intersect with that point, I can now snap to where that is. It's called a grip. If I hover over it again, it'll disappear. So if I hover over, creates a grip. Now I can click to that grip, which is handy. If I hover over again, it disappears. Also, if you make a grip and then zoom, so I'll zoom out, your grip disappears. So just know that your grips disappear if you zoom out. So I'll grab there, I'll go vertical, grab the end of that, and then I'll hit spacebar to end that line command. I think you can see some of the graph poking up. That's all it was, poking up from behind. Looking pretty good. Now, some of you are going to end up with stickers that are symmetrical, bisymmetrical, meaning they're the same on the left side and the right side. If that's the case, a good idea is to cut your image in half with a line, draw half of it, and then we can copy this half over to the other side, and I'll show you that a little bit later. So just keep that in mind. You don't have to, if it's the same on the left as it is on the right, you only have to draw one half of it, and then we can copy that over to the other side. All right, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to offset. So I'm going to teach you a new command, and what I want to do is I want to create a smaller rectangle inside this big rectangle that I just made. Right? I could go in, I could click line spacebar, I could zoom in on this corner, I could redraw this rectangle, right? I could definitely do something like that, grab that grip, right? That's pretty quick. It's pretty quick, but that's not necessarily perfectly centered inside that other box. Now, I'm going to show you something. Sometimes it's hard to see your lines, so I'm going to hold down the mouse roller ball and pan, and you'll notice your image disappears, and you can see everything you've drawn. Oops. Right? That can be handy. I do that all the time, just to see what my sticker is going to look like, because sometimes the image kind of gets in the way. Now, I just drew this in a couple seconds. I'm going to show you a different way of drawing it that works pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these lines that I just drew. So I'll highlight them, click delete. All right. And I'm going to use the offset command. So the offset command allows you to draw a shape that's parallel to your other shape, whether it's a line or a straight line or not. It doesn't matter, a straight line or a curved line. So I'm going to go ahead and click O for offset. And the first thing, spacebar, first thing it asks for is to specify the offset distance. Oh no, I don't know the offset distance. So we have to figure that out. So I'm going to hit escape. I'm going to zoom in here. Basically, I want to find out the distance from here to here. And that's going to be my offset distance. So we have to measure it. All right. There is a measure command up here, but even faster is just to type L spacebar. Okay. And I'm going to click there, and I'm just going to line this up, my cursor up, and I'm going to look at the number next to my cursor. It says 2.1472. So I got a decision to make. Do I want it to be 2, or do I want it to be on the inside or the outside? The outside looks like about 2.6. So I'm going to call it 2.5. I'm going to call it 2.5, and we'll see how that goes. So I'll hit escape. I'll go O again for offset, spacebar, specify the offset distance. I'm going to set that to say 2.5, spacebar, and I will select my objects. So I'll select this object, and now I get to decide, do I want to offset it on the bottom or offset it on the top? And obviously I want to offset it on the bottom. And I want to offset this line. I'm going to zoom out, pan. I want to offset this line up, and I want to offset this line in. Okay. Now zooming in, we can see that we've got a little bit of an issue there. So we have to trim the end of these lines. No problem. TR, spacebar, spacebar, and I can trim that. Oh, something's not happy. Hit escape, 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 escape. So I'm just going to hit escape a bunch of times, and I may have still been in the offset command. So I'll try it again. TR, spacebar, spacebar, and I'm going to trim. There we go. Now it's happy. Zoom out, pan. And I want to trim this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this. And you'll see these lines popping up in behind. All right, that's the graph sort of popping through the image, which can be a little bit frustrating at times. I got to end the trim command, so I'll hit escape. And you can actually turn that grid off if you like using F7 on your keyboard. So I don't have F7 on my virtual keyboard here. I don't know, I'm sure it's somewhere. But on your actual physical keyboard, if along the top, hit F7. If I zoom out here, you can see my grid is gone. If I hit F7 again, my grid turns back on. It's just a visual thing. The grid is still there. It's just whether or not you want to see it. So that's fine. So now I've done that exact same box. It just took me longer, but this time I know it's perfectly centered inside the other box, meaning that the distance is the same all the way around on top of that. All right, next I'll show you circles. So I've got a couple circles here, and there's a few ways of doing circles. So I'll come down, I'll type C for circle, surprise, surprise. See what comes, C is circle, all right, spacebar, and it asks me for the center point of circle. All right, so here, what it's telling me to do is guess where the center of this circle is, and that can be really difficult. So I'm going to go ahead and try guessing. I'm going to guess it's around here, and I'm going to drag that so it says specify the radius. So just reading what it says in the command line here. Specify the radius. So now I can just hover over where my line is, because that's the radius, right? But you can see automatically, if I click that, if I pan, you can see that my circle definitely does not line up with that circle, the original circle. So I'll go ahead and delete that line. So I'll highlight it and I'll click delete down here. Zoom out. I will show you a better way, an easier way. Once again, C for circle, spacebar, and specify center point of circle, or, oh wait, there's options. 3P, 2P, TTR. We want to do 2P. 2P stands for 2-point circle. Meaning that, meaning this exactly. I'll click this here, right here, and I will go ahead and grab the very top of the circle. It doesn't really matter where. just along the top there somewhere. And I'll click once, and I can zoom out, pan to the bottom. And now what I want to do is grab the very bottom of the circle, and you just kind of want to move that cursor until your circle lines up with the circle in the sticker. There you go. That's pretty good right there. I like that. You like that? I like that. So I'll click there. And we'll take a look. That looks pretty much perfect. All right. Now I have a second circle inside that first circle. So I've got 3 options. And I'm going to go through them in order. First option, draw a circle, C spacebar. Okay. 2-point circle, right? Now, if I do another 2-point circle, it's not going to share the it's not going to share the exact same circle, the exact same center as my first circle. So it looks pretty good, but if I pan and look, you can see just barely it's slightly narrower at the bottom and it's slightly wider at the top. Okay, it's a little bit hard to see, but that means those 2 circles are not parallel, right? So it's not perfect, and we want perfection here, folks. So I'm going to go ahead and click that and delete. All right. Option 2 is a better option. I'll go C for circle, spacebar, and this time I am going to use a center point. I'm not going to click 2-point. I'm going to use the center point. But my first point is going to be the center of the circle I just made. So I'll hover over my current circle, and if you got a really keen eye, you'll see that at the very center, there's a little purple grip that popped up right here. Okay, so I'm gonna get rid of that grip. So keep your eye right there, and watch. I'm gonna hover over the edge of my circle. You see that pop up that time? There you go. That's the center of my circle. So I'm gonna snap to that. I'll click, and I'll drag my circle out till it lines up with this the other circle. All right, and I'll click there, and this time, and I'll click right here. I said I'll click right here. What the? It's grabbing the center, which is very frustrating. So I'm gonna zoom in right here, and I'll grab that. Okay, never had that before. It doesn't look like it's perfect, but that's because the drawing's not perfect. All right, and so I'll pan and show you here. My image isn't disappearing. There we go. Now it's parallel, so it's exactly opposite the whole, same distance between the whole way around. I'm going to show you a third option. I'm going to go ahead and delete that, and if you're ahead of the game, you'll have guessed we're going to offset this circle here, and I'm going to guess that it's the same distance as it is right here. Okay, which was the 2.5. You notice I already set the offset distance to 2.5. So if you look here in those little parentheses, those little triangle arrows, greater than, less than, it's already default set to 2.5. So I'm just going to hit spacebar to accept that default. Or if you have another size, you can type in you know, if you want it 2 or you want it 3, you can set that in. But I want to keep it 2.5, so I just click spacebar to select that default. I will select my circle, and I will select if I want it offset on the outside or the inside, and I want to offset on the inside. Now, not only is it parallel the whole way around, but it's the exact same distance as it is on my rectangular part here. So even better. So I'll hit escape to get out of the offset command, and I'll pan, and that looks spicy. That's a spicy meatball. Okay, so what's next? Let's take a look here. Scale, tracing, lines, circles, trimming, extending. Now, I'll show you a few things here with that can be really handy. So I'm going to go ahead and trim some of these lines. TR, spacebar, spacebar. I'm going to want to get rid of some of these extra lines because they don't exist. Okay, this line here through the center, it's not allowing me to trim it because I'm trimming the entire I'm trimming the entire line segment. So if I want to delete that line, I have to hit escape. I have to click that line, and then we have to delete that line, not trim it. A few more to trim. Let's see. The circle shouldn't be here, so I'll TR, spacebar, spacebar. trim that, trim that, trim this, trim this. Okay. Now we're getting somewhere. Trim this, trim this, trim this, trim this, trim this. And that's starting to look pretty darn good. If you trim something and you want it back, feel free to come down to the bottom here and click undo, or once again Control Z, and that you can just keep undoing. I want to talk about undo because this is something kiddos have a big problem with. If I undo something, so I go down and click undo, right? You notice my line pop back up here. So I'll trim that and I'll undo that, and that line comes back. Now, watch what happens if I trim this and then I zoom out and then click undo. All right, my line, it zoomed in and my line disappeared. So I'm gonna trim that, I'm gonna zoom out, zoom out, zoom in, zoom in, zoom out, undo. My line came back. All right, that's not really proving the point I was trying to prove, but sometimes when you trim and then you move and you click undo, all it does is, let's see, still doing it. All it does is undo your movement, but it doesn't undo the trimming. So instead of zooming in and zooming out, just keep hitting undo until your line reappears. So you might have to hit undo 2 or 3 or 4 times until you get your line back. Unfortunately, I was not able to prove my point there, but that's okay. So that's the easy stuff. That's the circles and the lines. But McDonald, my image is filled with stuff like this that is created with arcs and stuff. It's not straight. Well, fear not, young student. I will show you exactly what you need to do. Notice I'm still in the trim command, so I will escape out of that, and I'm going to teach you the be-all end-all of commands that will help you do every arc ever of all time to the end of time and beyond. It's called spline. All right. Now you'll notice up here in the draw and modify, there is no spline command. Right? It's one you just have to memorize. So I'm going to go down here, click S. Okay, no spline, SP. That's the second one down, SPL. SPL for spline, spacebar. Okay, asks for the first point, and I'm going to start. Let's do one of these S's. Nah, that's no fun. Man, that's a small image. I should have grabbed something bigger. I'll do the spine. I'll spline the spine. I did not think about that before, but that's kind of cool. All right, so I'll click here. It says specify first point, and I'm going to go ahead and click right here. That's where I want to start. And immediately I run into an issue, and I knew this was going to be an issue. I want to click right here, but every time I go to click there, it snaps into the horizontal, and that is very frustrating for me. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to adjust our snaps. Snaps are a huge part of AutoCAD, and I've kept it a secret as long as I could, but it looks like I have to show you about it now. Splines allow you to change, not splines, snaps allow you to change what your cursor snaps to, which kind of makes sense. So down here at the bottom right of your screen, we've got grid. That's another way to turn the grid on and off. Okay, here is polar tracking. Okay, and it even looks like a little angle. Right now it's blue. If I left click it, it goes gray. And now you'll notice that I no longer snap to the horizontal, which is awesome. If I turn it back on right here, left click, you just notice I snap, and that is in the way again. All right, so I will, you can also edit, right click on it, and you got options for which degrees you snap to. So you can feel free to change it if you want to snap to 23 degrees for some reason. I like 90, it's pretty handy, but I want that off for now. And so that's polar tracking, that can get in the way. Just remember, if you do need to snap to the horizontal or vertical, you just got to go back in and turn it back on. All right, so here we go. So I got my second point right here. And as I go, I'm just watching what my line is doing. And it is doing exactly what I want it to. Copy that. Spine. I don't know why I'm holding my breath while I'm doing this. I don't want to mess up. Everybody's watching. It needs to be perfect. Oh no! I have purposefully by accident put a spot where I don't want it. Okay, now if I hit escape, it's going to delete my entire spline, and that was so much work. I don't want to lose my entire spline. Don't worry. Just go down here to undo and click undo, and it will undo that last click. And I can continue on spining my spline. A couple notes about splines. It's good to start where there is an edge. So I started at an edge or a sharp corner. So there's a sharp corner, so I'm going to end right here. Splines cannot do really, really sharp corners. The definition of a spline is like a long curved line. So by definition, you know, a spline doesn't want to make a sharp point. I want to undo that last point. Here we go. Just undo that last click. So in order to make a nice sharp point, so I'll want a sharp point right here. I'm going to want to end my spline and start a new one. Now, where my cursor sits when I end my spline is going to define what the line looks like. It's going to end right here. My line will end right there. However, how it looks before that, sort of on the left side, is defined by where I leave my cursor. So I want it to look kind of like that. So I'll leave my cursor there, and I'll hit spacebar, and it will end my spline. Now I'll make a new spline, SPL, spacebar, and I will start right here, and I will have a nice sharp line. What am I snapping to? Here we go. Object snap tracking. Yeah, that's right. Get rid of that puppy. I might need that later, but we'll see. And I can go on my merry way. Pan that over. And I can snap to my spline to my heart's content. So you can see that that's a pretty good start. Now, you'll notice at the beginning of my spline, right here, there's a gap. I want to close that gap. Easiest way to do that, you can draw a line, obviously, but a better way of doing that is we want to extend this line. Extend it till it touches here. So you can think of extend as the opposite of trim. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the trim command, spacebar twice, which might seem counterintuitive, but if you read what it says next to my cursor in the gray, it says select object to trim or shift select to extend. So I want to shift select. So I want to hold the shift key down, and I want to click on my line there, and you will see, and it's kind of frozen for a second there. You see I'm holding shift down on my virtual keyboard, and it extends my line. If I release shift, it goes away. If I hold shift, it extends. It's like a magic trick. So I'll hold shift, I will click, and it lengthens my line to touch this one perfectly, which is what I want. I'll hit escape, I'll zoom out, I'll pan, beautiful, and continue. So I would continue for the rest of this and each individual teeth and the claws and the inside bits, and I could make the letters out of splines and lines and be just happy. All right, so that's that. That should be everything you need for lines, circles, trimming, extending, and snaps. There's one thing I didn't run into that you probably will. There's one snap down here. We're using 3 snaps, okay? We've got polar tracking, we've got linear or object snap tracking that was turned on, and we also have object snap. It's called OSNAP. OSNAP. Object snap is arguably the most important snap in AutoCAD, and I haven't talked about it, but I need to talk about it briefly. Okay, if I go ahead and draw a line, I'll spacebar. Okay, I'm just going to draw it over here, and spacebar to end, and I draw another line. So I can just hit spacebar to bring up my last command, which is line, and you see how I snap to the end point of that, and I snap to the other end point of that. Okay, that's my object snap. And object snap is important because we don't want a little gap there. We do not want a gap there. We want that to be touching. If there's a gap there, when we cut our sticker, it's going to be connected, which you don't want. You want it cut out. So if I go down and turn off my object snap, and I try to do this same thing where I draw 2 lines, okay, and draw another line. You notice how I no longer snap to the end point of that line? So I can try to get real close. You can tell automatically that it's not quite perfect. Spacebar. But if I zoom out, there you go. If I zoom out, it looks pretty darn good, right? But upon further investigation, you will notice that that is not connected, which is no good. So you would have to connect each and every single one of those little gaps, probably using the trim command. Spacebar, spacebar, hold shift to extend, release shift to trim. Right now it's connected, right? But even easier, escape out of that. Even easier is just make sure your OSNAP is turned back on, and then when you draw some lines, spacebar, spacebar, you can automatically snap and not worry about that happening. Now you might be thinking to yourself, why would I ever need to turn object snap off? I will show you exactly why. So I'll go back into the spline command, SPL. Sorry folks, I'm trying to go nice and quick. Spacebar. If I'm trying to draw a spline over here, you'll notice the endpoint is highlighted. If endpoint is highlighted, so endpoint is highlighted right there. If endpoint is highlighted, if I click right now, it's gonna snap to that endpoint. But if I want a line to start exactly where my cursor is, right, and I click right now, it's gonna jump to, and it might be hard to see, but you see how it jumped exactly to that corner. It jumped to that corner right here. Right here. Okay? That's frustrating. That can be really frustrating. So I'll hit escape to get out of that. Zoom out, turn that object snap off, go back into, SPL or whatever you wanted to draw. Now I'm not going to snap to that corner anymore, no matter how close I get. So when you're trying to draw things that are close to other lines, or sometimes it's really handy to turn that off. It's just important when you end your spline or start your next one, it's just really important to turn it back on. Because if I start my spline here and I don't snap to it, okay, when I finish my spline, spacebar, zoom in, right, I've got, the first one is obvious, but if I zoom in, there's a second one here that's slightly less obvious that I need to trim. And if I zoom out, it doesn't look like there's much there. So you'd have to zoom in, TR, spacebar, spacebar, and spacebar, spacebar, and trim those 2 points before I continue, and hit escape. All right. If you're trying to snap to the middle of something, you can right-click on your OSNAP and click on the midpoint. If some of these are getting in your way, you can turn them on, you can turn them off. If you turn them all off, you can see it goes gray because they're all turned off. I like having endpoint, midpoint, center, quadrant, so you can snap to the corner of a circle. Not that there's a corner to a circle, but intersection is nice. Extension sometimes is handy. Perpendicular, tangent, nearest, parallel. Feel free to turn those on and off as you see fit, and then just simply click off that menu to make it go away. I will delete these. Delete. I will save this. Save. And that's all for now. Let me know if you have any questions.